Well, hello. I'm Erin Pennings, and we're here to talk about marketing yourself online without burning out because it's really, really easy to get sucked into all the things that people tell you you should be doing, and then to either wonder why the heck it's not working, not have time to do the actual things, and just kind of get into this battle of should, when the reality is you can build some systems and a process into this that makes it less overwhelming. So we're also going to talk about, because there's some irony, we're doing this right as I'm marking myself back up after some lengthy breaks over the summer. So um, the number one message, if you walk away with nothing else here, is that I want you to be kind to yourself and say, this is a lot of information that you're going to get. Pick one or two things out of this, and then we can talk more about how to layer it in more and more and more and more. So, with that in mind, now that we've kind of talked about all the things, I have no idea what all the animations are in here. So it'll be a surprise to me as well as you. Um, but this is me. That is not pink hair, that's a scarf. I am way too lazy to have something that needs to be maintained like that level. My focus is on brand marketing and messaging strategy, really to help people do things in a manageable way so that they can reach a bigger stage, they can expand their message, they can expand their impact, whatever that looks like. Sometimes people come to me when they're ready to pivot, rebrand, or they just are like, I cannot keep up with all the things that I need to do to market myself. I want to focus on the whole reason I got into this. So I'll share more about my flexible framework, which is designed to make that a reality. Whether we're starting with a brand messaging project, or whether we're starting with website copy, or whether we're diving right in with content. So I always like to say like how I got here because people's eyes bug out and it's really fun to surprise them. I won't read them all off to you, but what does a helicopter flight sim base manager have to do with design agency traffic manager have to do with where I am now? Every single thing on this list has something to do with communications and how to figure out what it is that people actually want. So there's a lot of psychology because a lot of this has to do with sales and how to attract people based on what matters most to them. So you can speak and do so in an ethical manner to work in the art of persuasion. Um, and that ethical marketing is really important to me. So you'll hear me talk about that a lot, if not today, then every time you hear me speak. I've been in marketing for the last 20 plus years. And in that time, you can imagine the number of articles, case studies, all the things that I have written, created, shared on videos and podcasts. And that means, probably the number one thing that I see with people is they get into creation mode and not into repurposing mode. So there's this pressure to continue to create new things, to continue to stand out, to continue to develop, when the fact of the matter is, one article can fuel all of your marketing for a month. A 20-minute podcast can fuel all of your marketing for a month. And just because something is like 6 months or 2 years old doesn't mean that you have to stop promoting it. You can still push back to it, meaning that you don't have to come up with a whole bunch of new stuff to say on social media. You just have to look back at what you've done and reshare or re-talk about some of those points and the context. So I'm going to show you more about that so that you can get out of creation mode and into like getting as much mileage as possible. And I say this as someone who every few weeks comes up with like, ooh, I should create a workbook for that. Ooh, here's a download for this. And it's really, really easy to get into shiny object syndrome, or I call it goldfish syndrome, um, because a goldfish, I think that things stay in their brain for 8 seconds, which means that um, it's really, really easy to continue to chase the things that are exciting. But with that in mind, the way that we're going to go about creating a sustainable marketing plan and something that doesn't burn you out is about first getting clear on what to say and where to show up in a way that builds authority for you, creating a sustainable plan that is something that you can keep up with, that doesn't leave you bogged down, and then creating systems to help you stay on top of those plans. So, um, I always like to say what we're covering so that you have a sense of things. And if along the way you have questions in the chat, feel free to drop them in. If it makes sense to address it right then, I will. If not, we will certainly address all the things on the tail end of this. So what we're covering, we're going to cover the different types of content and copy, how to weigh and choose different platforms, how to decide what to write about or say, because writer's block is real, very real. So is video creators block. So is audio podcast block. Then we're going to talk about how to turn a single piece of content into a month of marketing. And I'm going to show you the exact process that I use. And then we're going to co-create, as a matter of speaking, a content strategy that is keep up withable, or I'll at least give you the building blocks for it. And then I'll show you how I systemize the content creation so that I'm always working a month ahead. Because it's not fun to be chasing your tail and feel like, oh my gosh, I have to write something today, and that's when you get stuck, and it weighs on you. So we want to get out of the stuck mode and into the keep the machine moving mode. So I want to share with you my flexible framework, which is called the Reach Visibility Trajectory. And it blends research, engagement, attraction, creation, and hook, which isn't really a verb, it doesn't really have the same panache as the other ones. But because as you grow your visibility, you increase your authority and you grow your sales when you are doing things in an intentional way to establish, to become known for the things that you want to be known for. So the process is really something that builds on itself. It's not always completely linear. There's some curly cues along the way, but the idea is that you first have to figure out what your customers want and who they are. Then you figure out who you want to be. And then that middle of the Venn diagram is how you show up as a business. That is your brand strategy. And from there, we create some website copy, we build funnels, and then we're here to talk about the H section, which is that marketing plan, how to show up, all the places you need to show up without getting into that, again, that constant creation mode. So I'm going to dive in, take a breath, and say, what are the different types of content? There are three, incidentally, there's three primary content sources. And there's no wrong way to use your primary one. Each piece of content can serve in multiple fashions, and each one can be repurposed across them. I tend to really like to show up on live video, which surprises some people because I'm a copywriter and I stumble over my words all the time. But it's how I really get to know people. I love seeing your eyeballs, and I want people to get to know me the same way. So that's one of the best ways. I have a podcast. I love sharing my thoughts on audio with my fellow panelists. And obviously, I do love writing. If I had to pick, I would show up on a video all the time and not have to write about it, which some people find ironic, and I can understand why. But here's the thing. I am really, really good at turning other people's ideas into writing. I get writer's block myself, which is why these systems are so important and why I use them. But let's look at some of the specific types of content. This isn't all of them. These are some of the most common pieces. And each one of these can lead into more. You'll see, Kate, that workbooks are here because that's an important piece of content. Speaking, podcasts, all of the things. And so all content, specifically in writing, fits somewhere on the spectrum of informational to conversion focused. And realistically, all audio and video does the same thing as well. But since the foundation for a lot of marketing is in writing, and how we create the plans to show up on social media, on a blog, potentially, on a podcast, because they need show notes, as do YouTube videos. We're talking about it in the content copy world. So content tends to be more informational. Copy tends to be more conversion focused. And you may hear some copywriters say, I'm not a content writer, or content writers say, I'm not a copywriter. But in the end, I think there's a marriage of the two, because there are elements of your content that need to convert, and there are elements of your copy that need to be informational. It just depends on how you present the material. And I want you to know that primarily because even though we're focused on content today, there are some aspects of copywriting, if you even can push that out to audio and to video concepts. We're trying to convert them. We're in business. We're not just out to educate people for free. We are out to make money. And the purpose of your business is to make some kind of a profit, whether that's for you or whether that's for a cause that you support. So, thought leadership is a really important aspect of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about establishing your authority. But thought leadership, unfortunately, has become a little bit of a buzzword. So it's like, what does it actually even mean? It's like groundbreaking. So all that thought leadership is expert-driven content that allows you to showcase your unique secret sauce, if you will, your insights, your approach to set you up as an authority and to show your audience. You're not telling them how to do something. It's not instructional. You're showing them what you're noticing in the world or the things that you're seeing in the world. And of course, it can be in writing, it can be in audio, or it can be in video. So I want you to think about that in terms of the pieces that you are creating here, whatever your primary source of content is going to be. And I'm not forcing you to pick right now. I certainly would never do that. But for the purposes of this, I want you to think of everything you create as an opportunity to showcase your expertise and to showcase from a high level what the insights and approach are. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about thought leadership here in a little bit, but it's important to understand from a perspective, it's your opportunity to shine and show what you know. And just because 14 other people may have done let's say a podcast or written a blog about how to write a blog, it doesn't mean that there's not room for your unique approach and your unique 2 cents, because it is going to show people how you can stand out. Now that that's out of the way, this is the hardest part. Like, what should I even write about? What should I create? Where should I show up? Because it's really, really tempting to be like, oh, everyone's on TikTok now. I hate creating TikToks. I am on TikTok 24/7, I feel like, whenever I have a spare time or when I'm at swimming with my kids. I don't want to show up there. Even if I could perform potentially really well there, it's not realistic for me. So where do I show up? I asked some questions, and I want you to ask these questions right now. You can pop your answers into the chat if you want, if you're listening live, or you can write them down, or you can even just think about them. Where does your audience hang out? I can tell you right now, a lot of my audience is too busy doing their things to really hang out anywhere. So I need to figure out how to get those referrals, personally speaking. But I have a client who sells hot tubs. Her audience is hanging out primarily on Facebook and Instagram if they're not out like experiencing the world. Then you tie in where you like to be. You tie into what do you like to create. You want to create videos? Maybe you can repurpose them for TikTok. Maybe you want to do long form. You absolutely abhor the idea of standing on video. Maybe writing or podcasts are your way. There are, as I've said before, there are ways to extract that information to use all the ways. And then I want you to circle back to your audience. What resonates best with them? Is it a blend of all three? Is it a mix of two? Is it one in particular? And, that's the really challenging question. So I don't have all the answers here, but your preferences should play a major role, because otherwise it's going to get you into the cycle of having to do more things. And it becomes a chore rather than something that you enjoy, or rather than becoming a part of your business that you're willing to do. Because if we don't like doing it, guess what? We're not going to do it, or we're going to get sucked into burnout mode. And that's the last thing. So now that we've covered kind of the where and the how, let's talk about the what. And to me, this boils down to a few things. What do you want to be known for? Number one, what do you want people to come to you for? I want people to come to me when they are, gosh, I'm redoing my website. I don't know what to say or how to structure it. Hey, sign me up. I can help you. Um, I'm doing a lot of things and I don't know if any of it's paying off. I need someone to like come in and look at the big picture and say, these are the efforts that are moving you forward in your marketing. These are the efforts that are maybe not. Or I can't keep up with all the content. Where do I start? How do I streamline? What do I do? So those are the things that I want people want to be known for, is solving those problems. So that's section one. What you want to be known for isn't always what you're known for. So it's about figuring out what you are currently known for and what beliefs you have to shift about yourself in the public eye. How are people introducing you? That's a really good way to see how people see you or see what you're known for. For example, I was working with another copywriter on one of my courses to be like, hey, is this working? Run through the flow with me. And she's like, oh, I can help with the tech side. And I'm like, great. So the first thing I did when someone was looking for someone who could do the tech side of courses was say, oh, talk to Joanna. She's your gal. And she came back to me. She's like, I don't want to be known as the course tech gal. I just did it for you. I said, so that's really good to know. And I want to then refer her. So if people are introducing you differently than for what you want to be known for, you need to start taking the steps to take control of that narrative. So other ways to kind of evaluate what you're known for is seeing what people are coming to you for. If someone comes to me to film TikToks for them or edit TikToks, I have done something wrong in this world because I am not a video editor. If they come to me to automate anything on their website, probably not me. I am a words and ideas person. I am not a web development person. I'm not the technical side. Just to give you some ideas. And that will help you identify what gaps you need to close. And there, yeah, I get that it sounds really easy here, but actually doing it is different. This is not something you have to do all at once. This is something to keep at the back of your mind. Or if you're stuck on what the heck to write about, come back to this and see. So that's one thing. Oh, and I kind of covered this already, but if you want to be known as one thing, but if people are coming to you for something else, it's time to control that narrative. And how do you do so? You reply to people in the email. Hey, thanks so much for thinking about me. This is actually the kind of client and project I'm looking for. You can talk about social posts that are reintroducing yourself to the world. You see this on LinkedIn a lot. Hey, I'm Erin. These are the kinds of things that I do. These are the projects that I have open. You can write some blog content about your favorite projects and some of the outcomes. You can create case studies. And of course, there are speaking opportunities, which is the absolute best way because you're talking to people. And they can get a sense of who you are and what you want to do. So how do you figure out what you want to be known for? Right? It's an easier question than it is an answer. I would say identify some high-level buckets. For me, it might be brand messaging, content strategy, and website copy. Then you're going to pick one and break it down into multiple topics. And I talk about this as the content tree method. I've actually created a workbook and ebook. I think it's about 30 pages, and there's 8 worksheets that are in there designed to help you figure it out. And the theory behind it is your business is a tree, and then there are several branches that might make up what you want to be known for. Those are the things that you should focus on for content. At least 80% of what you're putting out should relate back to one of those 4 main branches. And from there, there's some little twigs that come off, or there's some smaller branches, and then there's some leaves. So you start to build that out into a full ecosystem, which is your content tree. Okay, I have a blank page. Cool. Love making last minute edits to this because there are always some surprises. So if you want an example of what that looks like, here are some different buckets that I've mentioned. Website copy, lead gen, content strategy, brand messaging. Within those big buckets, here are some elements of website copy that I could talk about. Maybe we're going to break it down into some of the pages. Then you take those sub buckets or sub branches and break them down even further. Each one of these can and is multiple blog posts on my site, just to give you a sense. So there is a lot that you know, and there's some interesting sources that you can think of to find this. What are the questions that people ask? Whether are they asking you in person? Are they asking you on discovery calls? Are they asking you on offboarding calls when they're like, what do I do with this thing that you've given me? Are they posting them online in Facebook groups? How can you answer that? So that's one approach. Think about how they talk about their problems. People very rarely think of me and they're like, or they think of the fact, you know what, I need website copy. They do not wake up and say that most of the time. They might say, gosh, people hop on my site and they don't know who it's about. Or people come to my site, but it's so choppy. Or am I saying the right thing? Am I saying the wrong thing? How do I know? And then you follow that bucket method, right? Or that tree method. Pick one of those and break it down into some answers. And even if you need to go like really, really big, and I'm going to flip back here, and you write a blog or an article all about a home page, you're probably going to have some subsections in there about at least half of these. You can then either create a 10,000 word blog post, or you can write 500 to 1,000 words about each one of these. Or you can create one big post, like 2,000 words, and then create sub posts that all link together on this, just to give you a sense of what that can look like. Here's another way. Are you saying something really good? Do you have a conversation? You're just like, man, I was on, pat on my back. Take notes, record it, because there's some really good stuff in there for you. And remember when I said I'm going to tell you more about thought leadership here in just a minute? I'm actually developing content based on a 5-minute conversation I had with a contractor who was like, she was working on her own project. She's like, how do I write thought leadership? What should I be knowing? And I'm like, girl, I've got you. I've got you good. So as a reminder, when I'm saying that thought leadership is expert-driven content, focused on the insights and approach you bring that sets you up as an authority, and hey, it can be any type of primary content source. A lot of that is driven from this one conversation that I had when I'm trying to explain to her how to make something more thought leadery and less informational. Yeah, and I love Fathom. I love Otter.ai. I love, oh my gosh, what's the one that I'm using? I love Fireflies. I love even voice memos, even Slack messages, even I've been known to record it in Facebook Messenger. So record that, throw it in, transcribe it, and you've already got your key points. And depending on what AI tool you're using to transcribe it, it may already be pulling out your key points for you. It may be saying, aha, I think this is really important. And it could also get things drastically wrong. If your dog's barking in the background, you're like, stop barking. It will come up with an action item for you to stop barking. So, it can be entertaining to see what that looks like. Okay. Drum roll, please. You already have your content. We've got that. We've created it using the methodologies over here. How do you get the most bang for the buck out of that? I've been working with a client on a series of articles that are SEO focused. And she's like, what can I do? So we've actually been republishing them to Medium. She's been turning them into podcast episodes that she then promotes in her email list along with promoting the blog. She turns them into social media content and a LinkedIn newsletter. There's so much that you can do with this. And she can turn her podcast then into little shorts for Instagram, YouTube, even TikTok, Facebook. She doesn't because she's not in the shorts world, but she could. So let's look at what one podcast or YouTube video. And when I say this, I'm thinking 20 minutes. You could hop on to Fathom and record yourself for 20 minutes and I can get you a month of content worth out of that. So we can almost always come up with 1 to 2 long form blog posts. Long form meaning, 1,500 to 2,000 words. We can come up with 3 to 5 emails minimum, and dozens and dozens, well, maybe not dozens and dozens, but dozens of social posts. Here's what that looks like. You have your primary video or primary source here, podcast or video. You have an email that's announcing this. If it was a live event, you might have emails inviting people to come. You can go into there and say, you know what, here's a lesson from doing this. Here are 1 or 2 things that I really want to call out with. We could call it like detailed takeaways as opposed to recap takeaways. So here's 1 takeaway. Here are 3 points that I want you to know about it. Then there's a recap email that says, oh, hey, if you haven't listened to this yet, here are the 3 major takeaways from this that I want you to get into. You can continue to leverage that podcast or video for years, as long as the content is still current. You can create a blog where you embed the podcast or video into the blog and create show notes for it. Here's an overview of what we're covering. Here's the transcript of what we're covering. And here are the links you need. It's the same stuff that's appearing on your podcast page, but it's on your blog so that people can find it. So you own the content so that you're getting the visitors, and just as importantly, so that it serves as a catalog for some of the things you're doing. Then you can do a deep dive post on related topics. I could do a podcast on thought leadership. I could have this blog with show notes, and then I can do a deep dive post on what I think you need to know about thought leadership copy or content. Almost always, you're going to be able to do a couple of infographics. 1, here are the key takeaways. That maybe even gets going, gets gone, gets put into, here's the words we're talking about, gets put into the email. That can also be a social post. It can be included in the blogs. And then you'll have a couple that are based on the blog deep dives. Maybe it's bullet points. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's an illustration. I have a Venn diagram. I talked about how research is one side of your brand message. Who you want to be is another side, and your actual brand messaging falls in the middle. That I can explain it on video, but I actually have an infographic that's based on that. Then you have social announcement posts for your blog. Hey, or for your podcast. Hey, this thing went live. Here's what we talked about. You have an announcement post that say, hey, the show notes are live now. Some posts about takeaways, some nuggets, because you're going to come up with some really good truth nuggets. And I guarantee there will be at least 3 to 8. And this is where getting your transcript really counts for a lot. And then you can make this post into infographics. You can see how this is easily a month of content just from 1 podcast or video. And if you're talking about multiple topics, like double that. But now let's shift it so your primary source of content is writing. I'm not going to spell this out verbatim, but you have an announcement email saying the blog post is live. You have some lessons, some tiny takeaways, and a teaser email. You can do infographics again. You can do the social posts. And this is what I was talking about. You can cross-post to Medium. You can cross-post to LinkedIn. You could turn it into a podcast, and I didn't even put that on here. Okay. So I said we're going to do 3 steps to market yourself without burning out. We have just gotten clear on what to say and where to show up and showed you how it can be repurposed. Now it's in time to create a sustainable plan for doing it. Because you could do all that, but that could be a full-time job on top of what you want to do. So now that I've shown you all the things you can do, it's time to figure out what you want to do. So I'm going to start with saying to make a list of your content ideas and see if they pass the sniff test. And by that, I mean, are they actually contributing to the authority that you want to be building? And are they helping you towards your goals? By that, I mean, are you trying to grow your email list? Are you trying to get more clients? Are you trying to get more subscribers? Are you just wanting to add value and spread the love out into the world? Whatever that looks like, make sure that your content is going to do that. Okay. Then, again, now we're creating a marketing plan. What are your goals? What's coming up? What trainings do you have? What speaking opportunities do you have? What promotions do you want to run? Are you running a Black Friday promotion? By the way, if you are, now is the time to start planning. What assets do you have that already support this that you don't have to create? Because I don't want you to create more. Don't be Erin creating stuff left and right. Focus on the assets that you currently have and figure out how to use them to grow, to reach your goals. And I also want you to identify the path to becoming a client. So if you think about traditional marketing, there's top of funnel where people are finding you, there's mid funnel where you're nurturing them, and there's the bottom of the funnel where they're like, I'm ready to go. How do they usually enter that? How do they go through it? For me, people might be stalking me online. One of my favorite clients, she's like, I got a referral, but before I reached out, I stalked you. And I'm like, good, good. You know what you're getting into. And then she reached out and was like, sign me up. She didn't even ask how much. She's like, we're doing this thing. And that's what you want. So what is the path to becoming a client? If you need more referrals, maybe you're not reaching out to prospective clients so much. Maybe you're reaching out to prospective referral partners. So maybe you need to talk about how you can make, I'm talking about how I can make a graphic designer's life way better by giving their audience the copy that are going to convert them. Or I've worked with tons of coaches or tons of web developers who are like, they need your help. And I'm like, I have got you. So once you have those goals written down, what's realistic? What can you realistically do? For most people, that's not going to be writing a blog or an email to your list every day. If that's you, fantastic, go for it. You probably don't need my help. Or if you're trying to do that and you're burning out, let's revisit this. Be consistent. It is not serving anyone if you drop 8 blog posts in a day and then post nothing else for 6 months. So, what is realistic? Maybe you can write 8 blog posts in a day. Fantastic. All of your marketing is set for the next 6 to 8 months. Spread it out. Pace yourself. And what's realistic? I know that I can realistically do a blog a month. Some months I do more, but usually that's because something is going on. I'm like, oh, I need to talk about that thing, and use what is realistic for you as your baseline. Okay, so we've kind of got the workings of a plan here. Now we need a system to help you stay on top of it and figure out what you're going to actually do. I use this process. This is one of my content planners where I map out a plan, and it's like, okay, this month I'm actually going to talk about this one thing, and I'm going to break it down into chunks each week, maybe with some separate CTAs. And these are the 3 key points I want to make sure that we're covering. Then I spell that out to here are the social posts I'm going to write. Here are the emails I'm going to write. So identify what those to-dos are. I create templates, and my VA does a lot of the graphic designy stuff for me because I'll obsess for 6 hours over like the position of a line, and that's not a good use of my time. So we'll create the templates that we're using. We'll create the structure for what all the social posts are, and then all I have to do is go in and write them. And will I do this on my own? Absolutely not. So we meet once a week, and she watches me type. And that's fine. If you need a body double to get stuff done, that is totally normal and totally okay. I'm part of a co-working community where we'll hop in and it's like, in this hour, I'm going to do this. And by stating your intent and actually doing it, you're all set. So best practice to build authority. Publish 1 blog a month. Why 1 a month? Google rewards websites that are making continual changes and updates. So if you can publish at least once a month, you're in really good shape with Google. Establish an email cadence and stick to it. This is more of a do as I say, not as I do, because I am not great about sending weekly emails, but I do like to send a weekly email so that I'm staying on top of people's inboxes. And it's a really good way, even if they're not opening every single email, to at least remain top of mind. Obviously, you want really great subject lines that they're like, oh, I have to open this and see what this is. My email today was a duck, the row, or my ducks, the row. And I think it was like, and a free training because I wanted to invite people here today. And so it's interesting. People are going to be like, ducks in a row, tell me more. So figure out what your email cadence is. Stick to it as best you can. Be kind to yourself if you're not, and instead of beating yourself up, just pick it back up as you're able. Then publish your social as you're able. Carrie and I schedule stuff 1 to 2 weeks in advance. Um, you really should go in and engage. This is a part that I'm not great at, but schedule 15 minutes a day and engage. And if you have to like hop between LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, which are the 3 places that I show up, that's totally fine. So what are the best systems? Plan 3 months ahead. Sit down, map out, even if it's like super basic. Okay, in December, I'm going to do this. That means that these 3 months I need to be pushing. You know, if I'm launching something new in December, I've got to start the plan now so I can create the content. Write at least 1 month ahead if you can, or record your podcast 1 month ahead, because then you don't get under the wire and you're not chasing your tail, and it removes the stress. Schedule your stuff at least a week ahead and set aside time to write in your calendar. Does that mean write or map out your content and record it? Writing is always my default here. By doing so, you're able to really, really make that appointment for yourself. And if you need scheduling help, know that that's okay. Get a VA to do it for you. And remind yourself that you are enough, even if you don't do it all. And if you need to take a step back, that's okay. So with that in mind, if you want to recap, and I'm going to rush through this because I just looked at the clock and I've been talking. We covered the 3 steps to marketing yourself without burning out, the different types of content and copy, how to like evaluate, weigh, and choose a platform or platforms, how to figure out what the heck to say in the first place, how to repurpose your content, and creating a content strategy that's realistic for you. If you're like, heck no, Erin, I'm not repurposing all that social, then don't do it. Figure out what makes sense to you. I would say between Carrie and I, we spend a total of 3 hours a week, and that's with her doing the designing and stuff. Could you do it in less? Absolutely. So with that in mind, I created a special bundle that I've been working on for months, and I finally published it Monday because I knew I had to do this today. And that is the Content Creation Blueprint Bundle. You can snag it at go.erinpennings.com/ccbb, and I will pop it into chat here. Oh, you've been using your content spreadsheet for the last 5 years. I love content spreadsheets. And so the content bundle is for you if you've ever wanted a new way to think about marketing your business, or if you've gotten lost in all the things. It includes a masterclass. It's going to look a whole lot like this. It's got my 30 days of content workshop and content planning template. It paces out to about an hour, but I have pause marks set in there. So it's like you can make an appointment with yourself, do the workshop, and set the pauses. And then there's my Creating Content Trees workshop, and it's that 12-month content workbook. Similarly, it's an hour-long workshop. If you pace it out correctly, you could probably watch it in, I think, about 30 minutes. Okay. But it's not $247. I pushed the bundle out at $129. And for those of you either here live or watching this after the fact, there's an additional 20% savings with the code LEAP 2024. So I'll pop that into chat too. Okay. So I wanted to show you what you can get, right? And by the way, those references, let me flip back here really quickly. I showed you sneak peeks of what these do look like earlier today. So if you're watching after the fact, you can probably go back and take a peek at what some of those look like and what's included. All right. I finished with 14 minutes to spare, so I wanted to make sure we had time to handle questions. In the meantime, if you have questions on any of this, you want to reach out. My business is called Copy Snack, so that's my handle on Instagram and Facebook. You can catch me on email, hello@Erin Pennings. I always joke that all roads lead to erinpennings.com. That is in fact the case. And I'm probably most active on LinkedIn. So I will type all of this into chat. Apparently Canva says I'm done, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Erin, thank
Gotta
you.
love Canva.
That was great. Felt very relevant.
Oh, well, good. I always worry that I'm throwing too much information at people. So I always try to like push it back, but there's a lot. Just pick and choose what works for you. I know Kate, you had a question way back. I don't know if you remember it. It was how do you find out what resonates with your audience? Um, there's a number of things. Figure out where they're hanging out. Like look back at your favorite clients. What about that relationship was so awesome? How did they find you? How do they spread the love, share the love? Is it in like coaching groups or mastermind groups? If so, then try to find speaking opportunities in those groups so they can get to know you. If they're hanging out online, some of mine are hanging out online. Um, Figure out where they spend the most time and then just start conversations with them. What reach out. And if it's authentic and not canned, because people can tell the intent, right? People can 100% tell the intent when you're reaching out. They're like, oh, she's not serious. She just wants to sell me something. Um, but I do a lot of my audience research on coffee chats. I try to have 2 a week. And so if someone says something really cool, I'll reach out and be like, I love what you're saying. Can we just talk? And every time once in a while, people are like, you're going to sell me stuff. I'm not giving you my email. I'm like, no, 100%. I'm not. I don't have time to sell stuff to people who don't want to hear from me. But I love to make new friends. So um, that's my advice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, if there's other questions, I'll keep recording so we can keep the Q&A as part of the presentation. If we're done with questions, I'll go ahead and end the recording. Okay, go ahead.
There we go. I was muted. So I have a weekly newsletter that goes out, and then I take that newsletter, put it up on my blog, and then I also take that newsletter, make a post out of it, right? So I'm repurposing that. Is that okay? I mean, I don't make my blogs longer. They're the chunk of my newsletter that's more informative. Because my newsletter also has upcoming events, all that stuff. So I don't take all that. I just take the chunk of information and make that my blog. Should it be different for a blog? Or does it,
So, I mean, there's always things that you can do to make it different.
yeah.
From an email to a blog, there's no need from like a content duplication standpoint.
Okay.
Um, could you throw in some headlines, make it so it's not SEO optimized for keywords, but so it's SEO optimized for Google? Absolutely. You can throw in the H1 for the title, the H2 subheadings, whatever
Right.
that looks like. I would make sure that there's a call to action in there, but I don't think you need to drastically change the content.
Okay. Good.
However, I'm going to, once you publish it to the blog, if you choose to cross-publish it to Medium, you need to go into the settings, and it's an advanced settings, and I think it's like called canonical. And you have to say, this was published somewhere else, and here's the link, so that you
Okay.
don't get dinged for having duplicate content. To that
Okay.
end, you cannot repurpose the exact blog to LinkedIn as an article because it will pop up as a like LinkedIn will get the SEO juice because they're a more, they're a, what's the word,
Right.
reliable site. They have a high domain authority. So that's the point when I would say, okay, so if I'm writing a blog first, I'm like, okay, how would I turn this into an email that would be interesting to people? And I take the bullet points and I'm like, here's what you're going to learn, blah, 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 blah. You can read more here. And I try to keep
Okay.
those LinkedIn articles to at least 200 words. 300 words, I think, is the minimum for SEO. So I try to get it to 300. Doesn't always happen, but just so that there's something of interest to read to keep people on the page without duplicating my content.
Okay. So if I've got, and I do monthly themes as well, right? So my theme for, I don't even know what my theme is for September.
I don't know what year it is. I mean,
In August, it was celebrate, right? So everything was around celebration. And then I have my weekly emails and then, take up that and create a couple social media posts. But if I'm getting ready to start a LinkedIn newsletter, I would want to have that it could be along the same theme. However, it would be different content, but I could pull that content out and put it in my newsletters, right? So that I would start with a longer LinkedIn potentially, because that's good. And then I don't do Medium right now, but I like the idea of being on Medium as well. So
it takes like 5 minutes because once it's
yeah.
scheduled in the blog post, you can go to the preview and go copy paste and toss it in, and it's almost perfect.
Nice. Okay, good. That's
So,
helpful.
I mean, yeah, you just want to watch out for duplicate content, and you really want the primary content to be on your site, so you're
Right.
getting search juice.
Okay. Um, The other thing is I don't have images with my blog posts just because that was taking way too long for me to figure out the picture that was in my head when I was writing it. And I was like, okay, I'm just skipping the pictures because then I know I can get the content out there, but no pictures. Is that harmful or is that helpful? I mean, there's pictures on social media, obviously, and there's pictures.
I think, you don't need pictures in the blog post.
Right.
That's totally optional.
Okay.
It does, and it depends on how your blog is set up on your site. It's good to have a feature image, but honestly, you can create something in Canva that's literally just, it could be like a blue block with gold border. I don't know what your brand colors are. And
Yeah.
then the title. This is the extent of my graphic design, right? I'm like, it's a blue
Okay.
thing with a gold thing, and it's fun.
Yes. I
But
totally
just
speak that language. The blue square with the gold trim, right? I got it.
100%, 100%. But that way you've got at least some kind of image so that if someone's sharing the blog post, it pops up with something.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
worth it to have a featured image, but you don't have to go further beyond that, and it doesn't have to be fancy. Like it could be something that you're like, I'm gonna go into Canva, type my thing, and
Okay. Okay. That's good to know because I mean, you know how long it takes to look through images, and now you can design your own images, but even that takes time. So
I get lost in that. Like talk about
I do
burning out.
too.
I'll look and it's like, oh, it's been 3 hours.
I know. And you're like on Unsplash or whatever, and it's like, oh, look at that pretty picture. Where can I use that? Oh, look at this. No, it takes too long. So,
No,
but
good
this is
question.
great information. Thank you, Erin. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Mhm.
And I'm slowly typing away while I'm like, ooh, tell me more. Um,
Yeah, thank you. I'm in. I'm buying your thing, and I hired an admin recently because I'm doing so much. I'm creating so much, my sessions, my podcasts, like so much, and I'm just terrible at getting the word out. And it has become an extra job. Like I started doing it, and I was like, this is taking up my whole work week just to create all these posts and these videos and these reels, and like I just stopped doing it. So I've been trying to find that balance. And this,
Well, and if you, I would say, like, if you find that your website can be the home for this, what can you do to just keep directing people back to the one thing you created
Mhm.
instead of going out and like try to go in?
Yeah.
I talk with my hands, like people can't see it when I share the
I
screen.
do too.
It's like Venn
My
diagram.
shoulders are moving, so you can tell my arms are moving.
Yeah. Awesome.
I grabbed a screenshot of the four of us. Is it okay if I post it on LinkedIn and give you
yeah,
some kudos, Erin?
Yeah, actually, let me do one too, if you don't mind.
Okay. I was able to grab one where we're all smiling and nobody has their eyes closed, so that's good.
Oh, great one. We are all smiling there too.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you again. Thank you for being here. I was telling Whitney ahead of time. A lot of times I know people watch out after the fact, but it's really, really fun when I can talk to humans and see faces. So.
Yes. Yes. Good. Awesome.